Good. News. This is in your textbook on page 121 until 130. What are we going to cover? We're going to cover issues of where do we get our media, why we are currently living in the age of fake news, the importance of media and its role, how to identify fake news, and then I'll talk about your term 2 project. So I'm going to give you like 30 seconds to think for yourself. Where do you get your information from? And 30 seconds starts now. Good. I'm sure most of you would have said either the news or social media or a mixture. Hopefully, none of you said, I don't look for information. I am the information. Because that's stupid. That's really stupid. Anyway, when then we look at print media, what is print media? Print media is media that is hard copy. So it's magazine, newspaper, pamphlet, things you can touch are usually print media if it's giving you information. Then I have divided electronic media and social media because they're not necessarily the same thing. Electronic media is still usually ways for you to get information from things like news organizations, channels that want to give you information, or the government. So that's why the news, TV, radio, and now podcasts are the quickest and easiest way where we get information that is electronic. We get it through those mediums. Social media now is becoming this new beast that society is not really sure what to do with it. And why is that? Social media has made us as the people who own it to almost become the new members of the media. And we don't follow the rules that media have to follow, which is why so much fake news is spread out. Um, we are so we can easily take a picture of something, caption it with false news, and spread it. And if people believe it, it will go viral. So social media is very instant, while print media is very archaic. Think about it this way: what happens in the news today here in Rotherport will only appear in the Rotherport Record on Thursday next week. How delayed is that? While I can immediately post right now online and everyone sees it. So print media is very delayed, and electronic media is still having to verify stuff. So when news organizations rush to post something so that they're the first to post it, they often can get caught up in spreading fake news. I'll give you an example. Recently, um, there were these people who tested positive for COVID-19, and um, it was at a church, little church meeting. And at that church meeting, the leader of ACDP was there, and people and other pastors were there. And the media said they tested positive, while they had only gone for a test. But they jumped to say tested positive and didn't verify that. And obviously afterwards, Mr. Kenneth Mashur, I think his name is, he ended up testing positive, but he only got his results last week. But the news jumped and said something that wasn't true. So electronic media, um, because it's fighting social media and trying to be the only space we get our information from, they can still get things wrong. So I ask you, if information is so easy to get, why are we so uninformed, misinformed, and often have false information? Ask yourself, what is your answer? Why is this happening? While you ask yourself those questions, here's some more I want you to ask yourself. Like, when last did you verify a story before you posted it? When last did you make sure a video was real before you sent it? When last did you actually read the article and not jump to conclusions because the headline uh, was quite sensational. Because these are the things that we aren't careful with when we are now the new members of the media. You and I, owners of Twitter profiles, of Facebook, of Instagram, of TikTok, we are the first usually to spread news quicker than any news organization, quicker than any government could. Um, and all the fake news we post in our WhatsApp stories, in our WhatsApp groups, we don't behave like the media is supposed to behave, yet we are members of the media because we are disseminating information. So here's a quick video about fake news.
There has never been a time in human history where information is as readily available as it is today. But with so much information living online, new issues arise: misinformation, disinformation, and something known as confirmation bias, which is a cognitive bias where we seek out information to prove what we already thought to be true. For example, despite the research behind and availability of safe vaccines, there are an unknown number of websites preaching the dangers behind them. What has concerningly followed is measles cases in the United States reaching the highest level in 25 years. Climate change remains a highly polarized political issue, with some denying the problem is real, despite proven research. And there is a new term we all know.
You are fake news. Go ahead.
Technology has brought us to a point where we can no longer believe everything we hear, read, or even see. This altered video of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was slowed down to make her sound intoxicated.
Sure, visuals that obviously were planned long before I said.
It spread like wildfire across social media. In 2018, misinformation was to blame for fueling chaos, confusion, violence, and death in Myanmar. It triggered mob attacks that left dozens dead in India. Experts are calling this current era information disorder. Its main contributors are misinformation, which is when false information is shared without the intention to harm, and disinformation, when false information is knowingly shared to cause harm.
Disinformation takes many forms. Sometimes it's a manipulated photograph. Sometimes it's a rumor that people might share with you face to face. Maybe it's a conspiracy theory that you might find on a platform like YouTube. There are many different elements to it.
But propaganda, rumors, and conspiracy theories are far from new. Some say the moon landing was a hoax or that Elvis and Tupac are still alive. But what makes the current phenomenon of disinformation different from the past is how quickly it spreads from one platform to another, and how easy it is to produce, from places like the Russian troll factory.
We've never had a means by which anybody can create fabricated content really, really easily. So I could set up a website today with any sort of domain. I can use very clever photoshopping techniques to manipulate an image. I can circulate a rumor through a family Facebook Messenger group, and all of a sudden this can travel like wildfire.
And while research has shown that YouTube played a major part in convincing some people that the Earth is flat, technology isn't the only factor to blame in all of this. There is also a growing distrust for science and institutions.
We like to blame Facebook, we like to blame WhatsApp, but we also have to recognize that, particularly over the last 20 years, many people's lives look quite different. There's still the impact of the global financial crisis on many people around the world. There are fears around climate change. There are concerns about how these shifts in immigration are going to affect local communities. And so there are lots of things right now that people are concerned about. And because they're concerned, they're looking to politicians, and they're not necessarily seeing strong political institutions. They're looking to the news media, and they're worried that the news media isn't necessarily telling them the whole story.
Social media giants like Facebook, Twitter, and Google have promised to curb misinformation on topics like vaccines, so legitimate news sources are prioritized instead of posts with higher engagement. And then there are companies like Storyful. The agency finds, verifies, and licenses user-generated, newsworthy, or viral content on behalf of media organizations, including Global News.
We have journalists who are specialists in these beats. And we also work with our technology teams, and they've built us a range of proprietary tools which allow us to search across mainstream and fringe platforms at the same time. And so that means that when we observe a phenomena like this, we can very quickly search to see, okay, well, where has this come from? Where did it first appear? And I suppose that helps us identify the origins of these things and get them across to our clients as quickly as possible.
They've dealt with their share of both misinformation and disinformation. When the world's attention was on Thailand last July during a rescue mission to free a team of young soccer players from a flooded cave, fake videos and accounts went viral online. Storyful was able to determine the content was actually from Wisconsin and had been online since at least 2012.
And that idea of old footage coming back when a news event happens is something we see time and time and time again.
When it comes to fighting trolls with clear intentions of spreading false information, it gets a bit more challenging. That was seen in a number of different ways ahead of the 2018 US midterm elections, including with hashtag #NoMenMidterms.
The hashtag was accompanied by a series of quite sophisticated looking images, and it purported to come from the US Democrat Party. And the idea was, according to the hashtag, that men should not vote in the US midterms. And as a result of their not voting, women's voices would become relatively more powerful, the hashtag claimed. But of course, the hashtag was false. It didn't come from the Democrats. It was not genuine in any way. And in fact, it was something that was hatched on 4chan. And it was done as a deliberate attempt to embarrass the Democrats, to fool members of the public into believing the campaign to be genuine, and ultimately to get one over on journalists as well.
But as information disorder becomes more and more sophisticated,
President Trump is a total and complete dipper. You see, I would never say these things. Someone else would. Someone like Jordan Peele.
experts agree the battle against fake news is far from over.
The people who are spreading this misinformation, they get it. They get that people are trying to stop them. They get how these platforms work. And they get, in many cases, what they need to do to avoid detection.
So what can we do to navigate the pollution of information out there?
Societies need gatekeepers. They need people who can be trusted, who can help us navigate the information ecosystem. And right now, we don't have that. And so I think for individuals who are feeling nervous about how do I navigate this? How do I know what I'm seeing online is true or not? And I would argue that this is a time that we go back to trusted sources.
Thanks for watching Global News. If you enjoyed what you saw, like the video. You can also hit the subscribe button to get all the latest international news and trending videos.
Good. So, we can see that information is very important for us. In fact, we can't live a life without receiving information. And almost as a side proof of how important information is, most countries that are either run by a dictator or are authoritarian or want to control how people think, they will want to own the sources of information. That's why China will ban the internet. That's why regimes will block social media, because if they can control the information their people have, then they can control their people. So information is key. So fake news is very dangerous, and a lot of people use it with mean intentions. So when we then look at the role of media is to be a bit of a watchdog. It's to check out and expose unlawful things, report on cases, expose human rights violations, expose corruption, as well as do things like communicate information to people, expose people to the different political parties that exist, create shows that give people in a democratic society the opportunity to share their views, the diverse views, help us to nation build through getting to know each other. And what you need to understand about media is there's public media and there's private media or independent media. So public media is people who work for SABC, because SABC is the South African Broadcast Channel Commission, whatever. But the idea is that countries that are democratic need to ensure that people access information. So the state will allow a board like an SABC or a BBC, different countries of their own um, state-supported news agency or broadcasting channels, so that every single person in the country has access to information. And when we looked at the Bill of Rights, we should have seen there that part of the Bill of Rights is every human being in South Africa has a right to receive information and a right to give out information. So that's what our broadcaster is there for. Independent media or private media, they are dependent on advertisement to survive. While the SABC, when they're running out of money, they can call the government and need a bailout. They too can get advertising money for the shows, as well as TV license money, but private media is dependent on advertisement. And that's where the argument always comes, that independent media can be biased because they don't want to upset their advertisers, or they want advertising only, so they won't create shows that are too controversial, because then advertisers won't want to advertise. While SABC, when you look at it, there's a very clear formula they have to follow. SABC 1, when you look at it, it kind of looks like it's made to entertain teenagers and Zulu people. You know, it's very young, urban. And then when you look at channel SABC 2, it feels like that's for the Setswana people and the Sotho people, you know, and Afrikaans people, and a little bit of the older demographic. And then you look at SABC 3, that's more for the English, you know, the urban people, you know, the suburbians. That's why it's like, you know, top billing there. And that is because they have to communicate, they have to inform, and they have to entertain as the media. So when you look in your textbook, you will see on page 122 and 123, what are the rules and responsibilities of the media? And that's because media is very powerful. So they have to have ethics and principles and a code of conduct that is very strict, so that they don't misinform us. So I've put the press code on it, Modo, so that you can read through it. You will need it for your project. But ultimately, the press in South Africa is a good thing, and they are protected by the freedom of expression, which is one of our rights. If we did not have it, then the media would be blocked. And we know historically in South Africa, the media was used to spread the propaganda. If you look at the Apartheid Museum, you can see there are many videos that were created by the government that were played as adverts, played as shows, to make all the white South Africans believe truly that the country is doing amazing and that the world is proud of how South Africa is. That's just propaganda, state-funded propaganda. So when we created the freedom of expression, that anyone can say whatever they want, and that the media is free to report on whatever they want, it's to work against that. So here's a little bit to understand freedom of expression.
What is freedom of expression, and what is hate speech? Welcome to the Civics Academy Constitutional Rights Series. These videos explore some of our constitutional rights and the institutions designed to support and enforce them. In order to assert our rights, we need to know their meaning and what they include. To use our democratic institutions appropriately, we need to understand their mandate and how they function. In this video, we explain the scope of the right to freedom of expression and its limits as enshrined in Section 16 of the Constitution. What types of expression are protected? Section 16 protects the freedom of the press and other media, the freedom to receive or impart information or ideas, the freedom of artistic creativity, and academic freedom and freedom of scientific research. Expression includes words and other expressive activities like movies, books, paintings, and sculptures. Symbolic acts like burning flags, wearing clothes, and physical gestures are also protected. The right to freedom of expression also protects ideas that will offend, shock, or disturb some people. The right, therefore, also requires people to tolerate the expression of others. The Constitution protects people against being silenced without reason by public or private actors. Ultimately, the court decides what kind of expression the Constitution prohibits. The role of the media and the Internet. The right to freedom of expression includes the right to receive information and unrestricted ideas through the media and the Internet. Newspapers, radio, and television must therefore be allowed to report freely. Blocking Internet sites because someone does not like the information they provide is unconstitutional. One of the goals of protecting the right to freedom of expression is to promote a government that is open, responsive, and accountable to the people. Freedom of expression can help to expose corruption and dishonesty amongst politicians, public officials, and private institutions. The media have a lot of power, and they have a constitutional responsibility to act with courage and integrity to support democracy. Limits to freedom of expression. Existing laws limit the right to freedom of expression in some circumstances. For example, it is not permitted to make untrue and derogatory statements about another person. If you falsely accuse another person of murder, that person can sue you for defamation because you have hurt their reputation. Other limits relate to who can access pornography and what types of pornography are allowed. These limits are only allowed if they are reasonable and justifiable in an open and democratic society. This means that there must be a good reason for limiting someone's expression, like protecting children from harm. When limits are created, they must be as narrow as possible. Hate speech. One of these limits on the right to freedom of expression concerns hate speech. Certain forms of expression that challenge the dignity of others and cause harm do not deserve constitutional protection. Expressions that have no or little purpose other than to hurt or harm others because of their race, sex, religion, sexual orientation, or because of some other related prejudice are called hate speech. Section 16(2) outlines different forms of hate speech. The Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act prohibits the publication or communication of words that aim to hurt, harm, or promote hatred based on race, sex, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and other prohibited grounds. When a person expresses hate towards another because he or she is black, female, or gay, for example, and an ordinary person would think that the expression was meant to hurt the feelings or bring harm to that person, this could be hate speech. If you are the victim of hate speech, the Equality Court can make an order including, for example, imposing a fine on the guilty party, implementing special measures to address the hate speech, and ordering an unconditional apology. We discuss equality courts in the video, How Do We Use Equality Courts to Challenge Discrimination? Summary. Free flow of information that empowers citizens is important for the health of a democracy. This is one of the reasons why the Constitution protects many different types of expression. This allows people to receive information and to share information with others. But some forms of expression are so harmful that there is a good reason to limit them by law. This includes forms of hate speech, which is regulated in South Africa to protect the human dignity of all.
Okay, so as you can see there, it's very important for us to allow the media to have freedom of expression, but that they must still be controlled. So now what the government has been proposing is that they wanted to create a state information bill where they want to punish people who would whistleblow or expose any secrets of government. Now, it sounds cool to say, we should actually protect the secrets of government because I wouldn't want people to know all our business. But there is the other side of it where they could hide their corruption behind it being a secret. And that is problematic, as we've seen in state capture, that our government can't always be trusted. And that the media, if they hadn't exposed issues of state capture, we would still not really know without any proof that things have been happening. So keep your eyes peeled about that if it ever happens, because we must remember that a free press is important. So the other limitations of just free speech is if you're using free speech to create propaganda, to create war, you're inciting violence, hate speech, and wanting to cause people harm. That's when then your free speech can be taken away from you, because the content of it is to create violence, create war, and hate speech and harm. Otherwise, you can pretty much say whatever you want. So then, how then can we spot fake news, as you think? So here's a cool video that I want you to really take on, write notes, apply it in your life so that you also aren't going to be part of the problem that spreads the fake news.
They come in every day, dozens of them, maybe hundreds.
Alors, c'est comme un mystère.
On our computers, our mobiles, social networks.
Photos and videos that amaze and astound.
Alligator. They even have a alligator that can.
But how do you know where they come from? How do you know what's true and what's fake?
Every image has a context, where and when it was shot. Verifying that context is what we call fact-checking.
We're going to show you some tips and techniques that will allow you to verify images yourself. It's like detective work.
Some people share fake images in order to promote their own beliefs and ideas. Take a look at this photo. This person published the photo in order to criticize a type of person who, according to him, would worry about the plight of foreign migrants and buy a tote bag that says "Refugees Welcome," but who would walk past a homeless person from her own country without even noticing they exist. First things first, let's have a look at the profile of the person who posted it. He's French. He describes himself as a patriot, and he's openly Islamophobic.
You can check suspicious photos on your phone. You need to do what's called a reverse image search. It can take as little as 30 seconds. Download the photo you want to verify, then open your browser and go to tineye.com. Upload the photo to Tineye, and you'll get a list of other places it's been published online. In this case, the first result gives us our answer. It's the original photograph, and there's no "Refugees Welcome" on the bag. So it's been photoshopped.
Every time something major happens in the news, think about using this technique so that you don't end up sharing false information. In August 2019, a huge number of fires raged across the Amazon in Brazil. In the photos being shared on social media, there were some photos that were old or simply false. A reverse image search shows you that this photo was taken in the Amazon, but it was taken in 1989. And this photo of a charred rabbit wasn't taken in the Amazon, but in Malibu in the US in 2018.
You can even do a search on just one part of a photo. Now take a look at this dramatic picture on Instagram, apparently showing fires in Australia. If you focus on the koala, you'll find its original context, safe and sound in a tree. It's the same koala, but inverted right to left. You can track down the other elements in the photo too. The girl, her mask, and the smoke. Photos are not always what they seem. The key is to find them in their original context.
In January 2020, Iranian General Qasem Soleimani was killed in a US airstrike in Iraq. Afterwards, a Turkish television channel broadcast this video.
Sevgili seyirciler, sıcak bir gelişmeyi aktaralım. İranlı General Süleymani'nin, yani Kasım Süleymani'nin öldürülme anına ilişkin görüntüleri şu anda ekranlara getiriyoruz.
Now look closely. On the top right-hand side, it says something in English. If you type that sentence into a search engine, you can find out where the video comes from. It's actually an extract from a video game for mobile, AC-130 Gunship Simulator. And if we look up the game on YouTube, we can find exactly the same video.
Photos and videos often contain visual clues that can help you find the original context.
Alligators. They even have a alligator that tips. So they call it alligator typing channel. And also they had the world.
Web users around the world have been talking about the discovery of a new species, the Wigu. But take a look down at the bottom. There's a logo. It's TikTok, an app that makes it easy to edit short videos and share them with your friends. Using the username, you can find the video they posted. On the right, there's a musical note indicating that sound has been added to the video. Even if the original poster meant it as an innocent joke, the video was taken out of its context and used to spread something that's fake.
It could be straight out of an action film. This clip apparently shows an assassination attempt on a Saudi Arabian prince. There's something odd in the video. The crowd watches the scene calmly, and no one runs away. We can find out where this video comes from using a free online tool called InVid. Click on the button Keyframes, then copy the URL of your video and paste it here. It'll give you a series of screen captures from the video. When you click on them, you can see where and when the video has been posted before. We found our video in this article, which tells us that the scene is actually a military training exercise in Kuwait.
But sometimes it's even easier to find where a video comes from.
Alors, c'est comme un mystère.
So was this really a miracle in the French city of Nantes? Well, Google can help. Look at the photo and think of some keywords to describe it. How about car pierced by tree? And there's the answer. The tree was part of an art installation. No special tools, just some keywords and common sense.
Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg is a familiar figure around the world. But have you seen this video?
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho. Not sure Greta's lefty friends will be pleased, though.
Here's another clue for checking things on social networks. Always read the comments. One person wrote that the star of the video is someone called MES, not Greta. MES is Swedish too, and does look a lot like Greta Thunberg. Web users in Brazil apparently stole her video in an attempt to discredit Thunberg. Emmy, however, had locked her account. The video was private and shouldn't have been found in the public domain. So this is fake news with two victims. Lies spread about Greta Thunberg, but also her Swedish doppelganger, whose private video was stolen.
The people who produce fake news often count on fear to make it spread. Lots of web users were led to believe that robots like this belong to the Israeli army. Now, humanoid robots do exist. The company Boston Dynamics in the United States regularly publishes videos showing off their latest creations. But let's compare the two videos. This one is spelled Boss Town Dynamics, not Boston Dynamics. That's because the one on the left is a parody made to alert people to the potential dangers of robots. The robot was in fact an actor with special effects added later. It was pretty convincing, enough that a lot of people believed it was real. There may one day be humanoid robots fighting on the battlefield, but not yet. And it's important to separate reality from fiction and not lose control of the facts.
As you've seen, you need to develop certain reflexes when you're fact-checking images online. Start with a reverse image search, look carefully for clues in the image itself, use keywords to find the original context, and don't forget to read the comments.
The people who make fake news are trying to fool you, so be smart. You can be smarter than they are. And never forget that behind every image, there's one reality. That's what you have to look for if you want to sort the true from the fake.
Good. So, hopefully that just shows you that fake news is a lot. It's everywhere. So you need to educate yourself so that you aren't guilty of sending fake news. So let's say you don't own any of these apps and you don't have a computer. Then my advice is don't retweet something that you didn't post, that you didn't see, that you haven't read. Okay. Rather play it safe than sorry. Don't be guilty of it. So I'm going to put up a quiz, and the quiz will just help you to apply some of this knowledge, especially because your project, a lot of it is going to be about commenting on what the media has done and how it's handled past issues. So I'm going to try design a quiz where you will practice, and I can see if you sort of understand the role of the media and the challenges that the media face so that you don't do badly in the project. Speaking about the project, I hope you've chosen your topic. If you haven't, I think it's getting closer and closer for you to make a decision. Choose the topic you will cover, because next week, the 6th of April 2020 at 9:30 a.m. we will have this class again. The classes are in 40 minutes because of the Zoom app, but next week it'll be a double period. So it'll be 9:30 until 10 past 10, then a 5-minute break, and then it'll be 10:15 until 5 to 11. And the idea is we will get hands-on. I'll answer all your questions and show you how to get your assignment started. So here's what I will cover. I will cover how to find information for your project and how to keep track of it. Because remember, you have to create a reference list of where you got all your information from. Then I'm going to show you how to decide the kinds of questions you can be asking according to the project according to the topic you've picked. Then I'll show you how to do it online and how to send the link and how to analyze the results, because you can do all of that while you are stuck at home. And then show you how to start typing your assignment, how to put your table of contents together, cover page, things like that, to make your project look good. On your Edmodo, there are two important folders. Folder number 1 is called Holiday Lessons. Holiday Lessons has all these lessons that we've done today on Monday, the 30th of March. Okay, it's got everything so that you're not confused, so that you're not lost. Everything is there that you can go back to and make sure you understand everything. So there's audio and there's video of everything. Then there's a second folder, and it's an older one. It's called Holiday Project. In that one, I'm putting all the things to help you get done with your projects. So there is a Word document called, I think, reference list. There I've put a table, and you can download it for your computer, for your phone. I've downloaded a table where I have shown you how to keep track of all your sources of information. So on the one side, you will write the name of the thing. So if it was a document, if it was a web page, if it was a picture, you will write the name of it. And then you will paste the link of where did you find that information. Because when I show you how to create the reference list, you will need that information. So go to Edmodo and check everything. And then in terms of lessons, I will not be teaching any new content. These 2 lessons were so that at least we've covered like 1 week of lessons. Then at least we're a week ahead, and if drama happens, we can catch up. But if the government decides that we have to stay home, I'll probably have to add another topic that we will cover during the holidays. But for now, there are no more lessons. You can just do the quizzes, make sure you're up to date with these 2 lessons that I've done, and work on your projects. And next week, Monday, I will only be dealing with the projects. All right.